Good morning, readers. Well, it is Friday and it is new release day. Today is the launch date for Time to Your Elf, which is book number 14 in the Reg Rawlins series. And I love the title and the cover of this one. I think it turned out really well. I kind of chuckle every time I look at it. So yeah, you can download this one now. You can buy it direct on my website or at any of the major online retailers, available in softcover and hardcover as well as ebook. If you get the ebook, of course, you can start reading today. So I will do a reading from chapter 1 in Time to Your Elf. The sun was down, and Reg was feeling energized as she looked through the appointment book on her kitchen island. It felt good to have some business coming in again. Her bank account had almost dwindled away to nothing, and she had been feeling the pinch. But she had come back from her most recent adventure determined to get things running again, and her efforts were definitely paying off. There was at least one appointment scheduled every night for the next couple of weeks, and in some cases a couple of readings and a séance. She'd been worried that she wouldn't be able to get any work. There'd been quite a reaction in the paranormal community when they discovered that her mother was a siren, and the backlash had not been pleasant. But her landlord, Sarah, had been correct when she said that it would settle down, and people would forget all about it in a few weeks when it was no longer big news. The work was coming back in, and Sarah's wards and charms kept the more militant witches away from the yard and cottage so that they didn't have to keep cleaning raw eggs off of Reg's front door and the remnants of spells and curses that had been left behind in the yard. All in all, things had been pretty peaceful the last couple of weeks, letting Reg get back into the swing of things. There was a tap on the door, and Sarah let herself in. The older woman was dressed for a night out. A green, sequined dress clung to her curves, and despite her more mature figure and a bit of extra padding around the middle, she looked very fetching. Reg was sure that she would have a fun night with whatever group of friends she was hanging out with. "Just thought I would check in before we go," Sarah announced, smiling. Starlight came running in from the bedroom and jumped up on the island counter, yowling at Sarah in a pleading, plaintive voice that clearly announced that Reg had been neglecting him, and no one ever fed him when Sarah was not around. "Don't believe him," Reg warned. "Oh, I know he exaggerates," Sarah agreed. She petted Starlight. "But I don't think it would hurt for me to give him a little treat, do you?" "For a beast who's starving, he's getting pretty fat," Reg observed. "You'd better not give him too much. I'm going to have to start giving him that special food for overweight cats." She looked Starlight in the eye, one of them blue and one of them green. "That low-calorie, high-fiber kibble." Starlight made a cross meow and turned to look at Sarah and to rub lovingly against her hand. "You're all ready for your readings tonight?" Sarah looked Reg over and gave an approving nod. Reg didn't know how Sarah could get up so early in the morning when she stayed out half the night with her friends. Weren't old people supposed to need more sleep than younger folk? Even if Sarah only looked to be in her 60s, Reg knew, or at least had been told, that she was actually centuries old. So she should need a lot of sleep, shouldn't she? But Sarah was always up before Reg was, and tisked and shook her head over the fact that Reg didn't usually manage to get dressed for the day before noon. Young people these days. "Good to go," Reg agreed. "I'm just going to grab a bite to eat before my first appointment arrives." She looked down at the book. "Eugene Franklin." "Eugenia," Sarah corrected. "You'd best get that right." "Oh." Reg looked at it again. The letters were carefully printed, but Reg had only glanced at the first few letters and assumed the rest. She was not the best reader and used a lot of shortcuts. Sometimes that worked, and sometimes it didn't. So, Eugenia, that must be a woman. Yes, got it. There was another tap on the door, and Reg looked over to see Letitia, the older witch who led Sarah's coven. While Letitia's lined face always looked serious and foreboding, Reg had learned not to make assumptions from her looks. Letitia had helped Reg out in the past, and was not quick to prejudge her, as others had. She was a lot more compassionate than she looked. "Are we ready?" "Just one moment. I need to get the cat something to eat." Reg rolled her eyes. Letitia tilted her head and looked amused. "I don't think that cat is going to starve. For someone who claims not to like the creatures, you do tend to put a lot of time into this one." "Well, somebody should keep an eye on things." Letitia shook her head slightly, but didn't point out that Reg was standing right there, and the cat was clearly not starving to death as he claimed. She waited patiently while Sarah found some tuna and put a spoonful in Starlight's dish. Starlight jumped down from the counter and started to wolf it down. "What are you guys doing tonight?" Reg asked. It was probably not a coven night, since Sarah usually dressed in formal black for those, but Reg supposed some of the witches from the coven might go out together for social activity. It wasn't all chants and spells. "There's a new club in the city that we're going to check out." Letitia was not dressed in a slinky, sequined dress like Sarah. Letitia didn't have Sarah's curves and probably wouldn't be comfortable in something like that. She wore black slacks and a satiny blouse that came up high on her neck. She wouldn't have looked out of place in church or a courtroom, but Reg wondered what kind of a club Letitia would feel at home in. Maybe they had a seniors' night. "Well, you girls have fun and don't stay out too late," Reg told them with a smile. Sarah gave Starlight one final pet and nodded. "I hope your evening goes well. You really should come out with us one night and relax. Too much work will just burn you out. You need to regenerate, too." "Yeah, maybe some night," Reg agreed, though she had no intention of going out partying with the older ladies. "Marion is coming too," Letitia said. "It isn't all witches." Marion was a psychic, like Reg, her competition. In the beginning, Reg hadn't gotten along with her. Marion had been adversarial towards Reg, jealous of the work she was picking up, maybe, or the reputation she was getting for being one of the better psychics in town. In Black Sands, there was no lack of psychics and other practitioners to compete with. But they had reached a tentative truce. Marion had even sent a couple of referrals over to Reg recently, and Reg was watching for the opportunity to send some business back Marion's way. It was better if they cooperated, or at least didn't openly compete with each other. The two older witches were soon on their way, and Reg looked in the fridge for something that would be good for a quick bite to eat before Eugene showed up. Okay, so there you go. First chapter of Time to Your Elf. You can head on over to my blog post, which you'll see linked to below. And I have a number of other new releases in there that may interest you. Take a look through them and see what else you'd like to add to your list of to be read books this week. All right, talk to you again next week.